Good afternoon, I'm Judy Maggio. This is Decibel Dialogue, and gosh, I don't know anything that's more ostentatious than a place that your dog can run freely while you have a cold beverage.
Yeah, thank you.
That's what Yard Bar is all about. We're here with the owner, Kristen Heaney, and one of the reasons we wanted to do this story is that as we talk about iconic Austin businesses, whether it be newer ones or older ones, things that keep Austin weird and wonderful, it's challenging as the cost of doing business continues to rise in Austin. We met Kristen at a Leadership Austin breakfast, and she was talking about all the money she's paying in property taxes now. So tell us about the beginnings, first of all, of Yard Bar, how you came up with this concept, because it is such an Austin thing to do.
Yes, thank you so much. The concept was born pretty simply out of my own, my seeing that there was like no place to have a beer in the dog park.
Yeah, this is a selfish business to start.
Yeah, which a lot of entrepreneurial ventures are. They're solving a problem that you have.
Yeah.
So.
And you were an architect, right?
I was an architect, and during that time, at that point in my career, I had adopted my first dog. And so I was often finding myself negotiating between taking my dog out after work for a really long, run, or going happy hour with my friends. And sometimes it would turn into me taking my dog with me to like on leash to a patio somewhere, and the servers always knew his name before they knew mine. But it just sort of got me thinking, like, why? And the food trucks were starting to become popular. This was like in 2009, and so I thought, the first thought was, well, why can't we put a beer truck in Zilker Park?
Right.
And you figure out kind of quickly why
everybody
you
takes
can't
their
do
dogs.
that. Yes. You figure out kind of quickly why you can't do that, but that's sort of where the idea was born.
Yeah. So, what changes have you seen in trying to stay in business from that 2009 opening until 2019? Or actually, was it 2009?
No, we opened in, so the kind of the seed for the idea was in 2009. I took an entrepreneurship class at UT to build my first business plan, because my background, like you said, was in architecture. We opened in 2015, so we've been open almost 4 years now. What's changed? I mean, just this is such a unique and new business model, that kind of understanding what our guests want most and how we're going to match what they're interested in. So for example, we opened with a full service restaurant with full wait staff and a hostess and things like that. But we're also entirely outdoor. And so once the kind of cold hit or the rain hits, that sort of the interest in eating outside obviously changes.
Right, yeah.
And so as the years have gone on,
this time of year, people just want a cold drink.
They want a cold drink.
Even if it's just water.
They want a cold drink. They want an umbrella. We have Mr. fans. So we have a full mocktail list also. But we started learning. I mean, that side of the business started changing and evolving, where we now do counter service for our food instead of full wait staff. But we've also learned over time that our guests want. I mean, they're really here above all for their dogs. Yeah. And for their dogs to play and have a good time. And
I brought my dog, and she's just a beagle, so she's over there smelling things.
It's so good.
Ruthie, come here. Ruthie, come here.
Oh,
come here.
She's coming.
Come here. Come here.
So that's been, I mean, some of the changes just in the business model are like,
But the other change that I know you have seen is just the high cost of doing business, because if you're familiar with Austin, Burnett Road didn't used to be a place where you'd find high-end restaurants or fancy condos.
Right.
So I'm sure that the property values around here have skyrocketed in the last few years, because now that's exactly what we see. Burnett Road's kind of a cool place to be now.
It's for sure true. I mean, when I started looking even for properties, I drove up and down Burnett Road, kind of searching places, and this lot used to be an old putt-putt course.
Right. I mean, long-time Austinites played.
Right.
I played lost many rounds of putt-putt golf
fun.
here.
And people come by and they tell us their stories. They bring pictures. And it's so great. So it was. I mean, when I first stepped foot on this property, I was like, "This is it." It had a crappy little old building that needed to be renovated. It had all these beautiful shade trees. It had a full parking lot. I mean, it was ideal. And
it's so close to a neighborhood, neighborhoods.
So close to neighborhoods. The demographics were right. Like we're a lot of, single people, couples without kids. The patio's family friendly. So all of those pieces were right. And when I signed the lease for this property, the property tax values matched with what we were trying to do in our business plan. But to your point, right, over the last 5 years, those property taxes have increased over 300%, and just
300%.
Yeah, from the time that I signed my lease. So that's over a 6-year period.
So you have an arrangement where you, as the business renter, also pay the property taxes.
Yes, and it's pretty common that if you're leasing a property from somebody, your property taxes are included. Hi, sweetie.
Ruthie's going to sit with us.
Good. Hi, Ruthie. It's pretty common practice. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It's common that your property taxes are part of your rent structure. And so we've been absorbing that cost year over year. So, for example, even between last year and this year, our tax bill is set to increase 45%.
Wow.
So it jumped from
45%.
Yeah. So it's just it's a lot for a small business to absorb, you know, and it's
And you don't have, you know, what options do you have other than raising the cost of coming here, or I guess fighting it? The appraisal district?
I know that we work with our landlord. We work with a local property tax kind of. I don't know what they are. They're not appraisers. They're the fighters.
Yeah, the people who protest.
Right.
Yeah.
The people who the protesters, and you know, we've gotten small reductions, but the challenge is that we have 1.5 acres on Burnett Road, which is developing, and you know, around us are 5-story mixed-use projects, and so the property itself is primed for that kind of development, and so that's how we get evaluated.
Yeah.
And
but
so
you don't have a high-end mixed use.
Right. We have a 1,200 square foot building on a property that's always been used as parks and recreation space, and is still being used as parks and recreation space. So the challenge is sort of, for me, I'm suddenly faced with like trying to figure out how to educate myself and who are the people to talk to try to get changes made while I'm also trying to grow my small business.
Yeah.
And it's a lot.
And I imagine that there are a lot of small businesses in Austin facing this same issue. We were at Vulcan Video yesterday, which is a long-time Austin business, and they're facing the same thing. I mean, it's just, it's more as the demand rises for space in the city, whether it's housing or businesses. It's rising and rising and rising. The rents are, you know, and property taxes. And now it's filtering down not only to residents but to the businesses.
Right. And I think that, I mean, for this property in particular, I know this is where I'm trying to educate myself. Like, I know there were some changes to how they started evaluating commercial properties, and it hit like right at the time that we started.
Business.
And so it takes a while to kind of catch up with well, what's happening, and why are our costs all of a sudden so high, and why aren't we getting ahead, and why aren't our investors getting the return that they were hoping for? I mean, those are all the things that small businesses are dealing with, and you're right, it is changing, and people like Toy Joy, I think, I mean, I don't know specifically their story, but it seemed like someone had to kind of swoop in and like help them, right?
Oh, many different iconic, you know, Threadgill's world headquarters had to shut down, just go to the one location on Lamar. Hutt's Hamburgers is shutting down and just keeping open at the airport, and so many over the last, you know, just several years. And actually the last 10, 15 years. But that's Ruthie.
Hi, Ruthie.
Ruthie likes to come to Yard Bar,
She's just
don't
looking
you?
at me.
Yeah.
I love her.
I think the final question is, what place do you think a business like Yard Bar has in the whole fabric of Austin's creative, weird culture? Because to me, this is a perfect Austin business. We, you know, I think we have more dogs per capita than just about any other city.
We do. It's why it's a perfect place. I mean, Austin is so, for one thing, Austin is the place that I got my entrepreneurial journey. Like, for a long time in my career, you know, I was going down a path and it didn't quite fit. And Austin's the place that gave me the space to cultivate this thing that I couldn't have, I mean, there was no way I could have imagined it without being and living here. And so, so there's that. I think Yard Bar specifically is above all is a place for the community. I mean, it is a place where our guests walk in and they tell me stories about how when they walk in here, the worries of their day just fall away.
Sure, you can throw a ball, or
you can throw a ball. You walk in. I mean, I walk in and I look out into the park, and there'll be some amazing, weird, snaggletooth-looking dog. Or
it makes you smile.
It's the best. It's so good because you just go out, and what I've discovered is it makes you present.
Like an antidote to your troubles.
And so I think that is what makes it so special. I mean, it's a place where people can still connect with each other in person, where people make new friends. I mean, we we had a bunch of regulars here who had friended me on Facebook. This was years ago when we were first opening, and they had hosted a dinner party at one of their houses with like a cookout and all of their dogs there. And I thought, my God, these people met here. Like, people have gotten married and had babies that met here.
Oh,
you know?
that's neat.
And that's the stuff that I think is that's the kind of intangible thing about a space like this that makes me want to figure out, how do we make it work?
Yeah.
How do we make it work, like, as this we want to grow a second location.
Yeah, you want to expand.
Now it's really like, okay, if we're going to keep being faced with this issue, how do we, you know, what does the structure have to be now? How much are we going to have to charge for memberships and day passes? How can we reduce the amount of space? How do we solve for some of the issues that we're having? And I think there are ways. And so it's, I mean, on the one hand, while of course this has been a really hard challenge for us to kind of face, the fact that we're still standing 4 years in and sort of have this education now to sort of know more specifically and more clearly what kind of space and lease structure is actually going to meet our needs moving forward is actually pretty powerful. You know, it's like, it's you know, it's just we're gonna figure it out.
And from a personal perspective, I love it when women start businesses and are business owners and really feel their, pursue their passions and their dreams. So,
yeah, thank you.
Kristen Heaney, we so appreciate you shedding some light on what a lot of local businesses are facing right now, the rising cost of doing business in Austin. And we sure appreciate all of the iconic and funky places that keep Austin the weird, wonderful place that it is. So thanks so much for speaking with us today, and thank you all for sharing a little bit of your lunch hour. I don't know where Ruthie went, but she's a beagle, so I'm sure she's smelling something somewhere. So try to stay cool out there today. Thanks so much for sharing a little bit of your day with us. Make it a good one.